how do you go about and find your true core values?
What a wonderful question. So a couple of ways of going about doing that. One is you can look to people that you admire.
Okay. Yeah.
And what do you admire about them? Do you enjoy that they are a family person who's connected with family? Do you enjoy that they are creative? That they live with what appears to be a sense of freedom to them? That they light up a room. So you can look at that, people that you admire. What are the traits that you admire in them? Why do you do that? That's one way of going about doing it. Another way to think about it is, you could say, if money were no object, what would you do? How would you spend your time? I would spend my time in nature. I would write a book. I'd start restoring watches. And, those are very niche things, but what's behind that? What's the thing behind that? What does that represent? So that's another way that you can connect with your values. What pisses you off? If you see something and it's a pet peeve and it's like an injustice in the world, and you are pissed and you're pissed or you're hurt. You're very sad, very empathetic for a tragedy that's going on in the world. That's a core value because that's triggering something inside an individual. So those are three ways to start looking at the core values. Then from there, what I would suggest is a brain dump, writing down like as many as you can. Doesn't have to be a set number. You want to write down as many as you can just to get them all out there. I'd almost suggest letting them sit for a day, let them just marinate, if you will. Come back to the list when you're in a really good place. It's quiet. You can focus on them and reread the list. And I guarantee you there's going to be just a handful of them that hit something. And those are your core values. The other ones get thrown away. Yeah, they have to ignite something within us. They've got to resonate.
Okay. And are there, great answer, by the way, great answer. Good questions to really think about, yeah. And are there actually, are there wrong core values? I could imagine someone saying like, oh, my core value is money. But maybe like you said, okay, what's underneath that? But just in general, are there incorrect core values?
That's an interesting question. And okay. So what comes up for me is I can't remember the individual who said this, but I think I heard it on the Tim Ferriss podcast. And I'm going to use this as an analogy.
Sure.
He would ask people, who's your third favorite physicist? And you have to think about that. And his point was, if I ask you who your first favorite physicist is, even people who are not familiar with physicists whatsoever, chances are they're going to say Einstein. That's easy. Who's your third favorite artist? Picasso's an easy one to throw out for number one. But when you think about number three, you have to dig. You've got to dig and go through a list. So that analogy applies to our core values. If a core value comes out, that might seem like the first one may be what you think is the right answer, but what you said earlier is to dig beneath and see, is that actually genuine? And I call them displacement values, and those are the values that we think we should have. Those are the values when we're going through the list. It's like, well, I should want to do this. I should be like this. And we want to be very mindful of those. Because if they're not ours, we're going to feel very incongruent when we follow them. So we've got to be mindful. And again, we go, what's the third one behind that? We dig.
And the question that you said, like, what would you do if money would not be a problem, is a very, very interesting question to think about. Yeah.
It really is. And what I think is funny about that is a lot of people, their first answer, not the third one. A lot of people, again, you and I go out on the streets of your town and ask people, they'd be like, oh, I'd sit on the beach and drink daiquiris. majority of people would be so sick and tired of that in 2 weeks, because we as humans crave meaning. We crave purpose. I mean, it's like intrinsic to us. So that, that's that first answer. And when we start getting down to it, and it's like, well, boy, I'd love to volunteer with horses. I'm actually using somebody that I know who does that. And it's like, why is that important to you? Well, it's a connection with an animal that's unbelievably intelligent. So what I'm hearing is connection's very important to you. And they're like, yeah, I do. I love connecting with people. Okay, so connection's one of your core values.